We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to this ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. First of all, do you hear, is the audio okay? Is the audio okay? Hold on one second. Everybody, hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. The audio's good? Okay. Well, we came on as, I'm not, not organized. Usually I'm organized. I'm not organized for this live show. We received some information, and what's interesting about it is we got the go-ahead. I mean, we got the go-ahead. So we've been scrambling here. We got the go-ahead, no strings attached. So we are going to let it fly. This reminds me of the early, March 31st, 2022, early April, May. We were flying definitely solo. there was a motivation behind us getting information, and that's kind of like what's happening now. This isn't the Colorado Big 12 story, which we were right on giving you the best information possible. This reminds me of the USC story. Anyways, let me get through my little thing, and then we'll get on to it. Welcome in, everybody, to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support the channel with a donation, hit the $ with a comment, and we'll get to your comment as soon as possible. Welcome into the studio that sits at the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend with your phone calls and your comments in the chat room. We have a stack show today. Cougars and Beavers, they get a big win for now. So, the last few months, you all know I've been sitting here pretending I'm a lawyer, which I'm not. I've been talking about how I thought that Washington State and Oregon State had a very strong case. I did not watch all of the Washington. I did not watch the whole proceedings. Okay, I did not watch it all. But I watched enough. I read enough analysis about it. It looks like Oregon State and Washington State are going to control a lot of the assets. Are they still going to get the whole ball of wax? We shall see. We'll see if they can get together, the 12 schools, and see if those 10 schools can get away with leave with something. But it's very interesting now that Oregon State and Washington State have their victory for now. What are they going to do with it? What are they going to do with it? They've got some leverage. Are they thinking higher? I shouldn't say higher. Are they thinking more aggressive? I think that's a better way of saying it. Than having the Mountain West reversed merger going on? Could they be doing something more? They have money to help pay some exit fees. Could they be looking at taking some of the Mountain West schools, some of the AAC schools, if they get a good media rights to it? Who are they? Are they going to be now? Are they going to be able to be in position to be able to talk to a media companies to try to figure out what's, get some valuations on a Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Tulane, UTSA type of situation? Could there be a Frankenstein conference, G5 being built? I don't know. Or are we just looking at Washington State, Oregon State, 2 years of independence, then a somehow have a reverse merger with the Mountain West? I am fascinated to see what your comments say. And what your phone calls. But congratulations to Washington State and Oregon State. Peek around the corner. We thought your position was very, very strong. It looks like the judge agreed with us. I think the judge got a little bit annoyed at the end of those proceedings. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to lead off with that. We're just going to go quickly through an article, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. And then we're just going to spend a moment on David Braun. Congratulations to David Braun. He was the interim head coach of Northwestern's football program, and now he's got the gig. He's the permanent head coach. Congratulations to David Braun. Congratulations to all those coaches who worked around with David Braun, because a lot of them, if not all of them, are going to have a job next year. They were coaching for their coaching lives for 2024. Looks like they're all going to get a seat at the Big Ten table. So congratulations to David Braun. And then we're going to end the monologue with Clemson. We've got more Clemson talk. I know we talked about it yesterday. We're going to talk about it today as well. Nobody else is talking about it. At least right now. No one else is talking about it. We went back and forth. The information that we are getting within Clemson being incredibly serious about their intentions on declaring that they're leaving the ACC. We talked about it yesterday in the live show. I'm getting messages on my phone. As crazy as it sounds, we can provide a date range for you today. Now, Greg, come on. How can you provide a date range? We're going to give you our best shot. And it's not going to be a huge date range, right? It's going to be small. Kind of like the hot bubble of action that we told you April 28th to May 17th. We told you that in about early third week of April when it comes to Colorado. And that had to do with the meeting of Colorado meeting with the Big 12. We're going to have the same similar date range. How did we asked some questions in how we asked some questions to certain people, and we asked the question, so what do you think? We were told from Florida State, first quarter 2024, we were told this information, December 26, 2022. We relayed that to you all. That's what we've been believing the whole time. We still believe that today. But, so then we threw out a date like within the first quarter of 2024. We were saying, well, probably this, right? We threw out a date range and it came back to us, no, this date range. So then we're like, why? And they talked, a couple people were able to talk to us. And then I was sitting there going, well, can't do anything about this. I mean, I can't really talk about it, right? And then he said, go ahead. I asked, I can go with this. Go ahead. Well, the last time I was told to go ahead with something, like this similar situation, I went through it for 3 months in the spring of 2022. Tweeting away, calling, tweeting away. I didn't have a YouTube channel. Sent the information to a couple media sites. Well, I sent it to a lot of people, but only 2 media sites took it seriously. One of them being Ryan Abraham, USC 247. And, but we've got a YouTube channel now, so we're going to talk about it. And when we were given the go-ahead in March of 2022, March 31st, in April, May, there was a motivation behind why it wanted to be put out there. We understood the motivation. I tweeted about it. I was honest about it. In fact, the Los Angeles Times, when they did an article on us, if you go to my Twitter feed, you can read the article. I said there was a motivation, and at times it felt unethical. But I was putting out accurate information. Most of you have, I believe, forgiven me. But in episode 22 of this college football YouTube channel, we did a whole episode, huge episode. Now, I didn't know I still don't know what I'm doing, right? When it comes to college football YouTube channel. So it looks really bad. But if you go and watch it, and you watch how I break down all the tweets, not all the tweets, but the important tweets between March 31st and June 28th, 2 days before the June 30th announcement, I expressed in episode 22 of this YouTube channel, there was motivation behind the reason why I was given this information. There's motivation behind why I'm getting this information again. So if you want to, I'm not going to get into the motivation at this point. I will eventually, when we do a post-mortem on this story, just like we've done everything else here at Peek Around the Corner, I'll explain to you then. So I'm just letting you know. Somebody did not. Now, we've been working on this. I told you yesterday, we've been working on this next phase of the story. We've been working on this for 3 weeks before yesterday. If you want to just say, Greg, I cannot take this seriously, I'm going to have to turn off this episode because you're getting information and there's motivation behind it, I completely understand. It doesn't make it not true, but I completely understand. I just want to be upfront with you. This stuff is not being laid at the foot of college football's Peek Around the Corner just because somebody likes me. Nobody likes me. They're not putting it out there because I'm paying them money. Or they're paying me money. None of that happens. I'm not blackmailing me. There's none of that. But there is other motivation why we are now getting this information. So if you don't want to hear the information at the end of this monologue, I completely understand. If you do want to, stay tuned. Again, we've been doing the Holy Smokes Theater. We're giving you the story, just like the Colorado story. This is going to be a bit longer, a lot longer. A whole lot more dramatic, a whole lot more money involved, a whole lot more media companies involved. Okay. So let's get first to, I want to thank the people who've come on in early this afternoon, Wednesday. Now, did I promote this show? No, I did not. Did I say we had a date range of a very important Clemson date range? No, I did not. Because we just got the info and the go ahead, so I flew in here. And I didn't even have all the lights turned on or the audio on. So, again, I could have done the old, spent 6 hours advertising this for clicks and views. No. When I've got something, I let you know as soon as possible. So, here we go. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. I appreciate it. Big Lubbock is in the house. R. Webb is in the house. Thank you so very much. Randy Taylor, Cornelius Green. Praise the Lord, Greg. You got that right, Mr. Green. Bo Stacker, Stephen McNeely, Don in Kansas. CFB Plus is in the house. James Foster. James Foster. Watch out for Kenny Dillingham in the desert to shake up the Big 12 next year. Immaculate is in the house. The Architect is in the house. Richard L. Mr. Buffalo is in the house. Mr. Hoosier is present. Grateful Trojan is in the house. Steven is in the house. Lonnie is in the house. Thank you all for coming on in. I appreciate it. Okay, T-Duck. Per the 247 Oregon State site, Beavers will announce the schedule for next year after the Civil War games. So soon, not a merger or alliance with the Mountain West. Not for next year. Definitely not. Maybe not for 2025 as well. But 2026. That's where everything gets mighty interesting. Okay, so let's get through the story. Ross Dellinger, real quick. We got to get to Clemson talk. This is why we flipped on the switch. This is an emergency live show. Washington State, Oregon State land court victory against the Pac-12. A Washington County judge ruled in their favor, granting a preliminary injunction that gives the two schools control of Pac-12 governance and assets, an estimated $400 million this year. However, the ruling from the Whitman County Judge Gary Libby is stayed until at least Monday as attorneys for the departing 10 Pac-12 schools work to appeal the decision. Depending on a timeline for the appeals process, the case could continue for months without a resolution. Libby's ruling is a sign that the Cougars and Beavers are in position to win the case against the departing 10 Pac-12 programs over control of the league's decision-making. At the center of the case, in control of more than $400 million this year in Pac-12 revenue from television contracts, the Rose Bowl, NCAA basketball tournament units. That revenue is normally distributed to each school, starting with installments in December. Each school is due about $35 to $40 million. Washington State and Oregon State now control those distribution rights because they control the voting rights. They're the only two schools that can vote on any of this, granting the schools the ability to use that revenue in different ways, including withholding it from those existing schools. However, in making his ruling, Libby describes this as a modified preliminary injunction. This is not a shutout, he said. So the judge and looking for some type of compromise. The 10 departing schools should be treated in a fair manner, he said. He does not believe that Washington State and Oregon State will make any decision to directly harm the 10 members. And if they do, the court will hear about it, he warned them. Attorneys from the two sides, Washington State and Oregon State, and the Pac-12 departing members argued for more than 2 hours Tuesday. They made similar arguments laid out in multiple court filings over the last several months. Fear of the unknown was rooted in each side's decision. And then it goes on and talks about what both sides believed in. Oregon State and Washington State. We skipped a couple paragraphs. Oregon State and Washington State clearly still toying with the idea of rebuilding the conference, of rebuilding the Pac-12 conference to complete a 12-game slate in the short term. They are toying with the idea of rebuilding the conference have been in discussion with the Mountain West over a scheduling alliance to complete a 12-game slate in the short term. But that comes with strings. The Mountain West wants more long-term commitment and financial incentives as a part of any alliance. And we know about the two schools, the Beavers and the Cougars, reaching out to the Sun Belt for a potential scheduling alliance that went nowhere. Washington State and Oregon State's control of so much cash could potentially assist their ultimate goal of preserving the Pac-12 and rebuilding the conference by plucking away teams, for instance, the Mountain West. There is a debate on what exactly the two schools would do with their governance powers and the millions in assets now at their disposal. It was at the center of the case Tuesday. And this is what we're talking about here at Peek Around the Corner. What do you believe Washington State and Oregon State are actually going to do with this victory? Could it be more than a reverse merger, getting Mountain West schools into the Pac-12? Is there something else? As an attorney arguing on behalf of the 10 departing schools said that Oregon State and Washington State are asking for the league to give them the keys to the vehicle, but we don't know where we're going. If given full control of this year's Pac-12 assets, would Washington State and Oregon State strip all 10 members of the revenue distribution? Anyways, I just want to say here at the end, the judge says, "I grew up where conduct spoke louder than words," said Libby, a 1973 Washington State graduate. "Conduct is what counts. Words don't so much. What you do and how you do it is what counts in life." So I think what he's saying is, the judge is, you got your victory for now. But how you handle your victory, you might be having to come back to court on this. It might get pushed up to the Washington State Supreme Court as it is months from now. But how do you handle this victory with the 10 other schools? And then what do you do after that is the real part that I'm interested in. But Washington State and Oregon State, they got a key victory yesterday. A big one. A big one. And I think it leaves room for all types of things that could happen. And I'm very interested to hear what the PATC community believes, what Washington State and Oregon State can do now. Is it just as simple as having the Pac-12 14, the 12 Mountain West schools, Hawaiian football, with Oregon State and Washington State? We're going to find out. I'm very interested in what you all have to say about it. John Till, I'd kick the tires and see if I can buy into the ACC. Yep. Absolutely. John has brought up one of these many scenarios. This is now alive. Long shot? Sure. A live shot? Yes. They could buy into the ACC if that is what they believe is what's best for them and the ACC agrees to it. And maybe the ACC should start thinking about backfilling a couple more. Thank you for the super chat, John. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much for helping us keep the lights on here at PATC. But yes, it's got to be one of the options. Now, of course, the ACC, they have to be interested. There's got to be a whole lot of... Now, that's buying into the ACC. That would cost you a whole lot of money. A couple $100 million. Taking no media money, right? For so many years. maybe 5 years, 6 years. Is that worth it? It might be for Washington State and Oregon State. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yes, the Mountain West TV deal does end in 2025. Lot sooner than the AAC. And then John with another super chat. I appreciate it once again, sir, for your generosity. And if the ACC says no, offer it to the Big 12. So many more options now open. Whether any of them if any of them has a clear pathway of actually happening, I don't know. But there is so much more now that Oregon State and Washington State can think of doing together. I would love to be a fly on the wall of those conversations now between Washington State and Oregon State. I don't know how viable any of these options are, but man, it leaves it wide open. It leaves it wide open. I'm thinking between those two options, the ACC option is more viable. Because the ACC, they're probably going to have to look at making more of a western wing of their coastal parties. And the Big 12, the schools that they just submitted might, have an Oregon State and Washington. I don't think the Big 12 thing is as viable as the ACC. Yes, a terrible hockey tragedy. Minnesota native Adam Johnson. Yep. Skate slit his neck. No question about it. Prayers out to his loved ones and family of Adam Johnson. Okay, so you can give us a call later on about the Oregon State-Washington State story. I know that broke last night. I just want to get into Pete Thamel, breaking news. Sources, Northwestern is expected to hire interim coach David Braun as the school's permanent head coach. Braun has Northwestern at 5-5 after a 1-11 season last year. An unbelievable job done by David Braun. Northwestern, big old scandal. Wow. It all started, of course, when Northwestern was down 31-10 to my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. 31-10. And they came back and won. Northwestern came back and won. And then they've been winning ever since. So congratulations to David Braun. He deserves it. The new head coach, the interim tag has been removed. Now he's the new head coach of the Northwestern football program. I just want everybody to hold on 1 second here. 1 second. Okay, now we're going to get to the Clemson story. Okay, so we talked a lot about Clemson yesterday. We talked about the motivations they have, the window they see, why it's probably even more important for Clemson to jump through that window coming up here. They may have more, they probably have more incentive than Florida State. To get through that window, it's going to be risky, costly, or both. I just want to show something before we get into the information that we have. I think you're going to find it, we got detail. We can give you a detail. We can give you a date range of expectation. As crazy as it sounds. I know it sounds crazy. Ari Wasserman, now we're not going to go through this whole article. We're just going to go through a couple pages of it. From the Athletic this morning, Ari Wasserman, Texas A&M job is better than most think, and the Aggies could shock us. A few weeks removed from an epic rant on his weekly coaches show that included the sentence, "The expectation is greater than the appreciation," Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney was asked by a local reporter if he had any interest in the Texas A&M job. Swinney diverted to coach speak and never attempted to kill the notion that it could be a possibility. Now, this is not the main thing we're talking about here, but I just want to give you a little bit of a backdrop of what is percolating Clemson University. "I'm just focused on this job," Swinney said. "Always have been." Now, this article was this morning. We did our live show yesterday, okay, on Clemson. "I'm just focused on this job," Swinney said. "Always have been, just trying to beat North Carolina. It must be November. That's all I can say." That's not all he could have said. He could have done exactly what Oregon coach Dan Lanning did. He could have stated that he has zero interest in trying to win anywhere else but Clemson and would not consider taking the job even if contacted. He could have squashed the speculation that is sure to be rampant. There are a few reasons Swinney may have opted to answer that way. Maybe he wanted to put a little scare into Clemson fans he deems unappreciative during a down year at the school. Maybe, and here is the PATC money shot of the article. We're gonna end this quick here. Maybe Swinney is aware of the ACC's placement in all of this conference realignment and wants to find a home in the Big Ten or the SEC. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. We'll get back to that in a second. Maybe it's a typical negotiation tactic for his agent to squeeze more money out of the Tigers administration. Maybe that is just how Swinney thinks during November. This has, after all, been the standard Swinney reply to questions like this. And finally, the last part of the article we're gonna talk here, or maybe just maybe he wouldn't mind hearing what the Aggies have to offer because, well, it's a lot. Which brings us to this: Texas A&M is a top 10 job in college football, and you can make a compelling case that it's in the top 5. The Aggies could be dangerous in this job search. More dangerous than people realized just a few days after Jimbo Fisher removal. I just want to get back to this part once again. Maybe Dabo Swinney is aware of the ACC's placement in all of this conference realignment and wants to find a home in the Big Ten or the SEC. This is why Clemson, the people that we are talking to, and I want to be careful here, I don't want to just... I'm not going to use the term Clemson money perch because that would be dishonest. Kind of. So I want to be careful. I'm just going to say the people we've been talking to with Clemson's interest at heart, when this article says maybe Sweeney is aware of the ACC's placement on all this conference realignment and wants to find a home in the Big Ten or SEC, you could replace the word Sweeney with Clemson. Clemson is aware of ACC's placement. Clemson wants to find a home in the Big Ten or SEC because, to be honest with you, years down the road, and it's a very short road from here, it's going to be more and more difficult for even a school like Clemson to be able to hang on to its top coach, top assistant coaches, and top football players. That's the road that Clemson is seeing. The same exact road that USC saw if they stayed in the Pac-12. The money advantage is going to mean more years down the road. First of all, the money gap is going to grow, but the ability to use that extra money to put a better product on the field, the ability to do that is going to grow because of revenue sharing, getting the money to the student athletes. Sweeney, now look, Texas A&M is a big job. Losing a coach to Texas A&M, that doesn't mean... But a few years down the road from now, Clemson could lose their head coach job to, well, an Arkansas, a Missouri. That's where we're heading. I'm not taking shots at Clemson. This is Clemson's perception. This is the motivation. I'm not going to get into motivation why people are telling me this, but I'm going to tell you the motivation that Clemson has, and it's even more than Florida State because Clemson wants to compete at the highest level of college football. That's not going away. Their want to is not going away. Their ability to, that's going to slip and slide away from them. There is a monstrous push that has only really been captured, a massive push at Clemson to find a way to get to the Big Ten and the SEC. And it's only really been public, there was a couple articles a month ago, but there's a lot going on. We talked about it yesterday in the live show. I'm not going to go through all that again. You can go back and give it a watch yesterday. So, I'm going to give you a date range. I'm going to give you a very important date range. Now, does that mean that tomorrow's not an important day or Friday's not going to be this stuff, this could change. And if it does, you can give me a hard time in the chat room or with your phone calls. You can go after me because it might happen before this. It probably isn't going to happen after the state range, but it could happen before. I'm going to give you an important date range. You can take this however you want it. And I'm not getting in trouble for putting it out there. At least by the people who've given me the information. Now I'm going to get, you guys know how this works. I'm going to get dragged through the coals on this. everywhere. Just like I did with USC, called the Big Ten, just like I said, Colorado, it's at the center of the stage. And I told you that there was a hop up of action and that there were donor meetings in late May. I got dragged. I'm going to get dragged for this. That's fine. But I'm not going to get dragged by the people who told me this. That's what's important. I'm not saying what your opinion is important. It's very important. You can drag me. But the people giving it to me, I'm going to be able to harvest the field over and over again. I'm not getting in trouble with them. I'm okay with getting in trouble with you. I'm not okay with getting in trouble with them. But they gave me the go-ahead. That's why we came on here as fast as we possibly could. The date range, the important date range of Clemson making some sort of declaration, some sort of public stance in regards to leaving the ACC as it stands right now. We were told it's somewhere between January 20th and February 6th. Now, I want to just give you a little bit of the last date range we gave you was, there's been a couple important date ranges we've given you here at Peek Around the Corner. And they both ended up being accurate. The latest one was the hop bubble of action, August 28th to May 17th. We knew what it was. It was a meeting. We knew the weekend. We thought it was going to be May 6th, the Saturday, but it turned out to be May 7th. We knew the dates. We knew that one of the two dates. We gave the range. We call it a hop bubble of action, but we knew what it was. We knew where it was happening, Chicago, and we knew it was one of 2 days. This is not quite that. I'm giving you a date range because we do not know. We're not sitting here thinking that it's a couple days in that day. It's somewhere around there. Maybe we can give you better information as the days and weeks go on. Why? Why this date range? Some of it I cannot hit upon. Some of it I cannot go into. Maybe if you know the Peek Around the Corner community is so good at keeping your head on a swivel, maybe you could find out some of the reasons why. You can come up with your own theories on why. By the way, this is 2024, January 20, February 6th. I can tell you, we were told Florida State money perch on December 24th, 2022, that Florida State was going to make their intentions known in the first quarter of 2024. We were told that on December 26, 2022. So we went through the spring, the summer, the fall of 2023. A lot of articles been written on it. This is going to happen. So we've been under the belief here at Peek Around the Corner that it just isn't going to be one school declaring themselves. It would be one followed by another, followed by another. We call it the bull rush. They're going to bull rush the ACC. So we've been under, because of the Florida State money perch, who told us on December 26, 2022, that in 2 months from now, that Florida State was going to make some public comments, and they did on February 24th, exactly what the money perch told us. He also said on December 26, 2022, which we reported to you all, that Florida State would make their official intentions known first quarter 2024. Are the plans going to change? I don't know. But this guy has been dead nuts accurate. Okay? Now we're getting this information from Clemson. We got a date range. January 20th to February 6th. That goes in the first quarter of 2024. That actually falls in the first half of the first quarter of 2024. So one of the things I can say to you all is once we've given this date range, of course we asked why this date range. Some things were said, some things were not said. One of the things was, and it goes all the way back to what the Florida State Money Perch told us, all the way back, is they want a long runway. They want as long a runway as possible up until August 15th of 2024, when they have to make their official notice of withdrawal. That's one of the reasons why that is the date range of importance. Another important part of that date range is there is some official stuff going on at the school, which I can't get into, and I don't really have the details anyways. It wasn't told really to us. So, look, there are Clemson beat writers out there. There are Clemson website owners. There are radio announcers. There's radio shows. Clemson's a huge brand. They've got great fan base. They've got the people they listen to. None of them are, as far as I know, are given any date range of anything that's going to happen. So why would we know at Peek Around the Corner? Why is these date range important? Why did we get, well, we know why we got the information. So that's it. January 20th to February 6th is a very important date range of Clemson doing the next, or really the first stage of announcing that they're leaving the ACC. And I feel really good about the accuracy of this. And I feel really good about the reasons why they want this out. And is Florida State, is that Florida State's date range? No idea. Is that the date that Florida State's looking at declaring? When is the national championship game? I have no idea. Is it January 11th, 12th? Somebody put in the chat room. I have no idea when that is. Is that the 17th? No idea. But anyways, that's the information that I have for you today. Way more information than I thought I would be able to give you on November 15th. As crazy as it sounds, I know it sounds crazy. How can you provide a date range of Clemson declaring something on November 15th? Well, there are people who believe it. Could it be moved? Could it be moved to be sooner? Sure. Don't think it's going to be later. So instead of us saying something's going to happen in the first quarter of 2024, I think now we can say something's going to happen in the first half of the first quarter in 2024. So we are narrowing the timeline here. And we believe the information that we are being told. We have reasons for it. Can't get into that. All right, so I'm going to get to your messages, your phone calls. I'm going to open up the phone lines. The national championship is January 8th. Okay. Alrighty, so we're going to open up the phone lines. You can talk about Washington State, Oregon State. This coming up weekend, Clemson talk, David Braun. Who's going to be Michigan State's new head coach? Is it going to be Lance Leipold? And what about UCLA? Is Chip Kelly going to be hanging on his job after this weekend? I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. Give me a moment. Hold on. Okay, the phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Again, I would have, if I knew this was going to happen today, I would have given you guys a heads up yesterday. I would have advertised it. I would have said big show or whatever. But no, we got the information. We got the go ahead. So I ran in the studio. Things were flying all over the place. And so we went live. We were a little bit unprepared. The UCLA I will tell you this. A couple years ago, we got word that PJ Fleck, in fact, I put this on Twitter out when I didn't have a college football YouTube channel. PJ Fleck's agent got contact with UCLA. UCLA had, I don't quite remember how it went, but there was interest just in case Chip Kelly did not survive. I think it was the 2021 season. I'm not sure if PJ Fleck would be on the list now that the Gophers have taken a couple steps backwards. But I know that PJ Fleck likes the big city environment. UCLA, Los Angeles. PJ Fleck runs a tight ship. Chip Kelly doesn't get along with his donors. PJ Fleck does get along with his donors, but there isn't not enough big enough donors at Minnesota. That's the problem. But I think a lot of people would be interested in the UCLA job. Obviously, going to the Big Ten. Greg, I read Tony Elliott for the Michigan State job. I have not read that. Virginia, looking pretty good the second half of the season. Tony Elliott, so I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if Tony Elliott was able to grab the Michigan State job. Michigan's in deep trouble. Now, a lot of people have been providing me information, or not information. Hold on a second. I got to fill my Cloak and Dagger mug with Cherry 7-Up, Diet Cherry 7-Up. The fat guy from Minnesota has been on a diet for about 4 weeks. I think I've lost 1.5 pounds. Look at that Cloak and Dagger mug. Beautiful. Go to the link in the description box. Order yourself a peek around the corner Cloak and Dagger mug. Okay. What was I saying? Was I saying anything important? Probably not. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Talk about anything in college football. Michigan in deep trouble. I want to get to that in a second. John, thank you so much for the super chat once again. Would Lane come back west for UCLA? I don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so. That's a very good question, though. I think Lane Kiffin's got his eyes on Texas A&M. Texas A&M job, like in realignment, there's that big domino piece that has to fall. The first one that falls, and then there's a ripple effect, a domino effect. Texas A&M right now is the big domino. You got to see where that falls, and then see how everything else transpires after that. I don't see Lane Kiffin to UCLA. That's just my opinion. Thank you, John Teal, for the super chat. I appreciate it once again. if the Mountain West Conference then steals North Texas and UTSA for 16 teams. What about Tulane? Tulane's got to be there. If now maybe Tulane won't be interested because maybe Tulane has their eyes on the ACC in another few years. Thank you, John, for the super chats. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so very much for helping us keep the lights on here.
Call from. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
You got to give your name before I bring you on. Please give me your name before I bring you on. Okay? Phone lines are back open again. But I did not get a name, and there was a spam thing, a spam alert. And I just can't. I can't put, we got to be a little bit defensive here, Peek Around the Corner. That's a YouTube channel. Don't want people to come up here and say something, not good. They get us in trouble. So when I see spam alert and people don't provide a name, I'm sorry. I got to close that call down. So call back again if that was somebody in the PATC community. Give me I am on keto. I am on keto. This is the 1,353rd time I am on keto. And it works until I fall off the table, until I get off the train. So, I've lost about 1.5 pounds here. Okay. That was an angry ACC fan. I guess I had a whole lot of angry Pac-12 fans at me. They're not angry with me anymore. So I guess I'm going to get some ACC fans mad at me. Michigan's fans are mad at me. Hey, speaking about Michigan, a lot of people. I got to get ready for this. Hold on. Okay. Rick Olson. I've lost 500 pounds. Same pound over and over. Oh, beautiful. Okay. What was I saying again? Guy, keep getting off track. Michigan. I love when everybody sends me direct messages, giving me information, latest reports. Please keep doing that. PATC community, keeping your head on a swivel. Been getting some lately talking about U.S. integrity, discussing that maybe Michigan, this whole thing is a gambling issue. I have not gone with that story. I have not speculated on that story. And I will continue not to. Now you can in the chat or with your phone calls. I have poked and prodded, and at this point, there's nothing there. There might be something there, but I'm not going to do a part of a monologue on it.
Call from
Rebecca. Go ahead, please.
Rebecca, can you hold just 1 second? I just want to finish my thought.
Sure can.
Thank you so much. And this thought keeps slipping out of my brain. So it's like my fourth attempt at it. So I poked and prodded on this. I know U.S. integrity. I know their role. They have a role within the Big Ten and the other power autonomy conferences. I get it. Making sure gambling. But I don't see any, I don't, there's not enough There's not enough meat on the bone for me to go into a monologue on that. But you can speculate with your chats or with your phone calls. But I just like I couldn't go with. I never went to the monologue talking about, Ryan Day's brother it's his investigation firm that has done this to Michigan. I poked and prodded on that. There was no meat on the bone, and sure enough, the NCAA has declared that no, that was not the investigation firm. So, anyways, Rebecca, go Huskies. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Well, I mean, nothing happened in Washington State yesterday.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't watch it. Obviously, I was at work, and I mean, I wouldn't watch it for 3 hours anyway. It's like watching paint dry. But no, I mean, it is what it is. Like they basically just made their arguments, and the judge ruled for the two schools. And the bylaws are so poorly written that they really left the judge with no choice anyway. They're going to take it to the state Supreme Court. State Supreme Court you can't present evidence to the state Supreme Court. So they're just going to hear legal arguments, and that's it. And then they ask you some questions, and then they'll decide.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, I'm fairly certain if it rules in Washington's favor, it gets appealed and it goes to federal court. So it's going to just get stretched out. And honestly, Washington State and Oregon State are just better off settling and just moving on.
I think that hopefully that happens. Just give something to, the other 10 schools and let everyone go on their way.
Because I mean, people are wondering if, it's going to be a situation where it gets sped up because it's two state agencies suing each other. And, I had to ask a lawyer friend, and he was like, no. They're pretty much just going to get thrown on a docket when it's available and go from there. Whatever works for the state Supreme Court. So probably sometime like in the first quarter of next year, probably January or February, is when they'll fit them in on the schedule. But they're not going to hear it. Nothing's going to get done at least until after the new year, because the judges they're pretty much done, I think, in the next week or so. And then they have some like conferences and things like that in January. So they may not even be around. I have no idea. The court case is going to go for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't even call yesterday's victory a victory, because they can't do anything. The two cannot do anything that causes irreparable harm.
Yeah.
The judge pretty much said that. So whatever they vote on is basically what they were already voting on. That's it. They can't do anything money-wise. So, like, if they try to withhold funds, or some people are joking on Twitter, like, oh, just make sure that only OSU and WSU can play in the conference title game. Like, yeah, you could do that, and then the judge will lay down the hammer.
Yeah.
So nothing got done. Like, at this point, they just control the board, but they literally can't do anything other than what they were doing before, which is just simple business.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess it's a victory. I mean,
yeah, I called it a victory for now, because if it would have went the other way, then they, I think it helps them with certain type of leverage going forward with Mountain West schools and everything, and we'll see how much of the assets they actually get. I think it's going to be more than if you evenly spread it out among the 12 schools. So in that way, it's a victory. Washington's going to be fine. Oregon's going to be fine. They're going to be okay. Years down the road, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an is what it is thing. I mean, Washington State's a little weird. in what it does. Like when it, what we do out here.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't. And I've said this on Twitter a few times today. I was like, nobody knows what direction the state Supreme Court will go.
Yeah.
There's no way to figure it out. I mean, I'll use an example because caused a lot of issues in the last 2 years. Basically, somebody said that they don't know how those drugs got there. They're not their pants.
Huh?
Yeah, somebody did that, and the state Supreme Court ruled on their side that you can't prosecute them. Basically, they made all drugs legal for possession for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you don't know which side it's going to go. You would think that's a common sense thing, but yeah, that's where the Supreme Court went.
Yeah.
So, for anybody decides, the Supreme Court will just rule based on what the previous judge did. No, they're going to do their own thing. They'll review the case. They'll go through everything. There's no evidence. There's no PowerPoint. It's basically just you're giving legal arguments, and then they just ask you questions, and then you have to back up your argument with another legal argument. So no matter what they do, and, the whole thing about, they can just dissolve it in California, that is something that they could bring up, but they have to bring it up in an argument, in a legal argument way,
mm-hmm.
in order to make it happen. Because it's a California law. Talking to a friend, it may not be something that they really focus too much in on because it's a California law, and they don't, a lot of these courts don't like to overstep the bounds of other states, but they'll ask them about it probably if it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an evidentiary thing. It's just simply you're telling them your argument, and you're living with your argument and hoping that they take your side. Debate class.
So, okay. Washington undefeated.
Yeah.
I got up on the screen the remaining of the football schedule. Oregon State Saturday. Washington at Oregon State, and then Washington State at Washington. Holy smokes. Huh?
Hey, our wide receiver coach today said that he hopes that Oregon State fans talk trash to the receiving group. Talk about their moms, talk about their wives, talk about their girlfriends. He actually said all that today.
Yeah.
He said he mentioned Michigan State did that, and it fueled him. So,
I bet. Yeah.
I was like, it's kind of a weird comment to hear from a coach, but I was like, okay, that's pretty much how they're kind of taking Oregon State. They were also yesterday at practice. A lot of people don't know what Oregon State does. They play chainsaw sounds throughout the game.
Yeah, I know that. Yes. Yep.
And they had a speaker, and they were blaring the chainsaw sounds in front of the O linemen's faces and D linemen's faces. So, loud as can be to try to simulate what it's
I read that their plays they're doing that sound all over the place when they were practicing. Yeah.
It's gonna be a wild game. The weather is the biggest issue. It's supposed to rain here in Seattle. I don't know what it's supposed to be like down in Corvallis.
Oh yeah.
But it's gonna be mid 40s and potential with rain or a little bit windy. Nothing like last year's game, but it's different. And also, they're trying to fit as many people into that stadium as they can. Apparently, Jonathan Smith was on the radio out here in Seattle, and he said, they've already been talking to the Corvallis Fire Department to see if they can, how many people they can expand so they don't violate the fire code. Yeah. So, it could be a lot of. It should be a really great environment. UW is the only Northwest school that's going to Corvallis. Because they play at Oregon next week, so it's going to be. I think at this point, I don't think any of us know how that environment's going to be. Yeah. But it should be. But I'll say this: if they don't leapfrog, if they win and they don't leapfrog Florida State, everybody out here is going to claim the ball.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it on that, Greg.
Okay.
Love the show.
All right.
Whatever happens in the ACC happens in the ACC. But to A&M fans, no, you cannot have Kalen DeBoer.
Yes. Okay. Got it. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for calling. Great call by Rebecca. Go Huskies. Yeah, that was a great call.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye is on the line. The floor is yours.
Well, I thought maybe I'd try to follow up Rebecca. That was a pretty good call.
Yeah.
And fortunately / unfortunately, I did watch the entire proceeding in that court case, and I basically my brain was kind of fried after that for the rest of the night.
I bet. What was your takeaway thoughts on it?
I put out a little post this morning on Twitter X that's gotten quite a bit of information or quite a bit of response to it. Beyond that, my thoughts were, first off, the PAC conference probably just shouldn't have even shown up. Their lawyer was either not good or they just didn't have enough money in the coffer to pay him enough billable hours to even really present much of an argument. It just kind of seemed like he walked in there and winged it.
Mm-hmm.
This was really more of a case between the Oregon State, Washington State lawyer and the University of Washington lawyer. And so some folks have kind of gotten that mixed up in that the University of Washington lawyer wasn't actually, on the PAC side. It was more like three sides to this. It went pretty much as I thought it would go. I know there was a lot of people saying Washington was going to win this and all that. I kind of felt like the biggest distress in this was actually the threat of dissolution. And they basically showed at the end of this that they had at least thought about that. So Oregon State, Washington State won as they thought. But the Washington lawyer did a great job in putting some doubt in the judge's mind, and because they started with the first round of presentation, the Oregon State, Washington State lawyer went first, then the PAC lawyer, which there's nothing worth talking about, then Washington's lawyer, and when he went, he brought up some good things that the judge then asked questions about the second time around when the Oregon State, Washington State lawyers came back, and that threw them for a little bit. They didn't really have a good answer. And when you was asking them, okay, what are your plans going forward, give you this power, and they really wouldn't say.
Yeah.
And so Washington, I think, got exactly what they probably thought going into they could get. And Oregon State lawyer, Washington State, whomever is actually paying for them, didn't seem really prepared to go that far into their plans. He did a good job of, responding and saying what he said, but that's really what caused the stipulations that the judge put on this. And while some people might think that he didn't do a good job of stipulations, he put a very broad stipulation on this. Like, if there's anything that they do to potentially cause harm, that could be a problem. And that just leaves the door open for Washington's lawyer and the others to just any move that Oregon State and Washington State make, they could at least raise concern to the court. Now, that doesn't mean the court's going to be like, yes, you're right, I am reversing this injunction, but expect to see a lot of nitpicky stuff come out any single time there's something that Washington State and Oregon State try to do something on the board. So I actually think it went both ways, and I'm really just hopeful that at the end of this makes Oregon State and Washington State feel strong enough to come sit at the settlement table. Because, before it was just them against this whole pack. I mean,
yeah,
that's a powerful lineup of schools, a lot of money. And it's just Oregon State and Washington State going against it. I kind of get it. You may not want to just sit at that table as it is. So now, based upon this, I'm hoping they feel strong enough, pumped up enough to sit at that table for real. And I know some people think that I'm just taking Oregon State, Washington State's side, and I'm not. If anything, I just want this over so the CFP can go forward with real business. That's the only reason why I'm concerned is because even Hancock for the CFP has said this is holding things up. So, yeah, I think Washington's lawyer was really good. There's just one little thing at the end. I put that in my tweet. People can read that and think what they want on it. One thing that mistake he made, and maybe I'm wrong about it, just my opinion. But other than that, very good, very formidable. OSU, Washington State's lawyer, also very good. Was a little more kind of down to earth, I guess you could say. Just kind of explaining things, like kind of more like a guy that you just meet day to day, but still very good. And maybe that makes them even better. I don't know. But the Washington lawyers, the way he first started off very strong coming at it and then shifted a little bit later, I found it impressive. But at the same time, I mean, I was sitting in a room with like over 600, 700 people watching this and talking. So there was a little bit of entertainment value to it in that regard. But yeah, I think I'm hopeful that this leads to a settlement now.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping a settlement. It's not going to be evenly distributed, the assets, the money, revenue coming in, but hopefully the 10 schools get something, get a bite of it. They leave happily, and Washington State and Oregon State now have room and some extra money to potentially get something going with the Mountain West or long shot scenarios like buying their way into the ACC. Do you think that scenario is alive at all?
I think probably beforehand, the 10 schools probably weren't willing to negotiate much on numbers, right? Like they want their share. That's no.
Sure.
I would do the same thing in their position.
Yeah.
I think now when you start to look at the cost and time involved in, this is going to continue to hold up CFP stuff, they might be willing to go a little bit lower because I do think Oregon State and Washington State probably want some of that money, not just to go in their pockets, but to be used to replace. And I don't think that's really out of line. That's what conferences do. That's what the Big 12 has had to do. You're looking at the SEC is helping with Texas and Oklahoma to make their move. This conferences help other schools move into them. Like it's just, and in this case, as extreme as it is, I think that that's not out of the question or out of line. But they're going to have to be real careful at figuring that out because that judge left a very wide stipulation. So, if they say a number and the others don't like it, they're going to take it to the court. And then it's, now we don't know. So I'm just hoping they kind of come to a number that's maybe not quite as much as the 10 wanted, but it's enough to take care of whatever they need this money for. Yeah. Because they have needs. We're look at Arizona, look at, and what some of these other schools might also be in a bad position and they need that money sooner than later. So maybe there can be some an agreement that they get to pay out earlier than it would normally be, but for less than the total amount. And so they can get that amount financed or something. I don't know. But I'm really hopeful that we get something very soon. I know Schultz came out Saturday in something with Wilner saying, they're ready now to negotiate with CFP. And I think they probably felt pretty good about this case. And you put that out there that, now with all this going on, hopefully we get some movement.
Yeah, we need clarification on the playoffs going forward. So
that needs to get finished up. I don't have a horse in that race. I just kind of felt like everyone was trying to kind of just bowl right over Oregon State, Washington State. It's like, that's not going to get this done. Yeah. So hopefully now they can get something worked out.
Now, this was not breaking news after you called. This happened.
Oh, you have to do this.
Before you called.
Yeah.
Source confirms Iowa star defensive back, punt returner Cooper DeJean suffered a lower leg injury in practice that is expected to sideline him for a significant time. Just a phenomenal player. That's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, someone actually DM'd me earlier about it, saying that
Yeah.
they heard that he broke his leg.
Oh, that's terrible.
So
I hate that. Happening in
yeah,
practice.
and that guy has a future, and I hope to leave. I hope that he can get healed up for that, because he was probably going to be at least round 2.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. That was really rough to see today. I'm just kind of like, with everything else going on, it's not like I'm not ready to process that yet.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I should not have brought it up.
What's that? No. That's news. Like, that is regular. That's true news, because I was, ranked number 16, even though the AP seems to think they're not even deserving of a top 25.
Yeah.
Figure that one out.
Yeah.
And, they could be going to the Big Ten Conference Championship game. Although, if they lose both games and some of the other teams win out, they don't go to the championship game. No, I don't think his loss will cause them to lose. So it might surprise folks that Iowa actually has a pretty deep defensive backfield. Even like Castro, that guy I think he was a walk-on.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's going to he'll definitely get drafted to the NFL when he goes out. I would say probably top 3 rounds. So, I mean, they do a very good job at building those guys up, but that's a special one. So, yeah, we'll see how that affects us this week against Illinois.
Yeah. All right, is there anything else?
Yeah. I've been trying to think, like, what to say about the Clemson thing, and I mean, it's pretty much what we've been saying, right? We've been saying early 2024, expect some word. It is nice to hear, like, this is going to happen. But at the same time, I'm just kind of, yep, that's expected. That's in between. That's after football is all over entirely. Give them a week or two. And it's also well before the basketball tournament, so it doesn't mess with that. It makes sense to me. So
yeah, that could all be playing into it.
Otherwise, pretty good. It was. Well, hopefully, we get news here soon, and I do appreciate your reporting on this stuff.
You got it. Appreciate it, Immaculate. Mr. Hawkeye, thank you, sir.
Yep. Have yourself good.
Connor Stallions, according to the AP, I know this has been brought up in the chat. This news broke this afternoon. Ann Arbor, Michigan, Connor Stallions, the former Michigan staffer at the center of the sign stealing investigation by the NCAA, did not file any expense reports during the 17 months he was formerly employed by the football program, according to the school. Freedom of Information Act request from the Associated Press of Stallions' expense reports while he was employed from May 22 to November 23. There are no responsive records. Patricia Sellinger, Chief Freedom of Information Officer at the school, replied in an email sent Wednesday. The NCAA has documented plans and budget information outlining the scouting scheme of Michigan opponents, and Big Ten has received those materials. The NCAA also shared the evidence with the Big Ten. We all know about that. So, interesting. Not surprising. But it is good that we see that official record, right? That there was no expense reports filed by Connor Stallions at the very short time that he was employed by Michigan. We know that he spent thousands of dollars. It was reported that it was budgeted at $15,000. Who knows how much he spent? Whose money was that? Was it Connor Stallions? Was it because he might have been wealthy before he took the Michigan job? Family money? I don't know. It's not surprising that there is no direct linkage from Michigan to Connor Stallions' expense reports, him getting money to do this. But there was at least 65 people involved in this in-person scouting scheme. A lot of money was changing hands, probably through Venmo, because we know at least one incident from a witness who did some of the work for Conestoga. We're going to be hearing more. More people are going to be coming out talking about it, how they got paid. Just to bring that up. Sounds like a one-man show now. Well, it wasn't a one-man show. He involved at least 65. And the coaching staff didn't know it, even though he's playing in their ears, and he had a laminate piece of paper that had all the signs of the other team before the game even started, and it was all on a Michigan complete. I am not sold that it was a one-man show. Not at all. He found himself on the Central Michigan sideline all by himself, one-man show. And if it was a one-man show, it still doesn't take the responsibility away from Jim Harbaugh. But I don't think it was a one-man show. Not a one-man show when videos are being uploaded to the server, to a computer that has access of everybody, pretty much everybody. But anyways, Michigan, great football team. They could win it all this year, with or without Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. I'll have to sell it on you. Okay. I'll have to sell you on it then, Greg. All right. 65 scouts, thousands of dollars, multiple games, multiple teams, multiple seasons, and he was on the Central Michigan sideline. I can't wait till that story breaks and how that happened. Well, why hasn't Central Michigan suspended anyone? Great question, Architect. Maybe Central Michigan is actually doing due process, unlike what Michigan did. But more seriously, I think it's because the NCAA is doing the investigation work on it. The NCAA is involved in that Central Michigan situation with Conestoga. It's all part of the broader investigation of the NCAA. I don't think we're going to be hearing anything from Central Michigan until the NCAA says something. Becky, go Huskies. I want to hear Michigan spin on the Central Michigan situation when it all comes out.
Call from
Steve, Mr. Cincinnati Bearcat, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
Well, we got some rain in Florida for the first time in 3 weeks, Greg, so that's a good thing.
Wow.
Yeah. With the information you gave us on Clemson, your opinion, what's the best way to ask you this? What other balls get rolling once they come out and tell us what they're thinking?
I think there's a couple other things that happen real quick before or after Clemson, and that is Florida State and probably North Carolina. I can't imagine Clemson making their intentions known and Florida State not have done it right before Clemson or right after Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens. Then I think you start seeing, at that point, Notre Dame scramble.
Yep. That was going to be my next question. You read my mind.
Yeah.
Of course, you can give us information, and you don't have to give us information on this question, but were you made aware of that they found a crack in the in the gore or anything of that
No.
nature?
No, we asked if this was a settlement or was this a circumventing of the gore, and no answer was provided.
Okay.
They did not.
Okay.
They said we're not going there. That's how they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, that was just a couple things that definitely crossed my mind.
I sure would like to know, but.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just, you gave such great information, and I was just kind of taken aback when you came on and said, there's a date. I'm going, wow.
Yeah.
And then when you gave the date, I went, wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And for everybody who didn't watch Toledo and Bowling Green last night on ESPN2, they missed a heck of a football game.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, Toledo is a real deal. They really are.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see. I know Jason Campbell's the highest paid coach in the MAC, and he's just over like $1 million and a half. It's going to be interesting to see where he may or may not end up when the season's over.
I got a feeling that he's going to be somewhere else by next year.
Yeah, I just think it's Big Ten somewhere, and Indiana has been what I've been told. So,
and wouldn't it be fun, Steve, if we had the expanded playoffs this year and we were looking over on who was going to be the G5 representative? What G5 school would be the highest rated team? Because Tulane's had some close wins, right, lately?
Yeah.
What if they would have, Toledo would be right in the mix. Yep. And it would be so much fun for the fan base. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Greg.
No, go ahead. No problem.
Liberty,
Yes. Oh, definitely Liberty. Yes.
Yeah.
They're
one of them there. James Madison, it's going to be interesting to see how their appeal to the NCAA works out as far as.
Yes. Thank you. I forgot to mention that, and that's not even in my notes. Thank you, Steve. Jacksonville State.
That's just look, this is their second year, right, Greg?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's Jacksonville State's first year.
Right. And a couple other teams, but man, you got to give James Madison a shot if they run the table. In their second year, and I'm not saying they should be in an NY6 bowl, but God, give them a bowl game.
Yeah.
Let them play in a bowl game. I mean, that's just kind of it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, see what the NCAA says.
Yes.
And if the NCAA can act on something that quickly.
We are going to find out about that tonight.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's what I've heard. So tonight,
I have not read anything or heard anything. Good. Thanks.
So I think we're going to find out tonight, and
I'll be looking for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you go, Greg. Enjoy the info you give us, and again, from the time USC and UCLA and then Texas and Oklahoma, and then the Four Corners. It's just never ending, isn't it?
Never ending, man. Never ending. Drama everywhere in college football. Yep.
All right. Take care.
It. Thank you, Steve. Great call by Steve.
Now.
Yep. Steve, Mr. Bearcat, great call. And he reminded me of the James Madison Jacksonville State. I think they find out tonight. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not tonight, maybe tomorrow. I think it was going to be tonight. If they are eligible to play in a bowl game they can play in a bowl game right now if there is not enough teams to fill the bowl slots. But they're ineligible right now to play in the conference championship game. They're ineligible to play in a New Year's bowl game. They're trying to become eligible. Jacksonville State trying to get into the Conference USA championship game. James Madison trying to get into the Sun Belt championship game. And again, I tell you, I love the way the playoffs are set up right now with those 12 teams for next year. I love the fact that the highest rated G5 conference champion gets an automatic berth. It makes those five conferences and its schools now have a pathway access to the playoffs, and it's going to bring money. It's going to be interest. Their conference championship games are going to get more eyeballs because there's importance to it. They're going to get bigger sponsorships for the games, potentially a few years down the line, bigger media money for their championship games. And then they get to the playoffs. They can celebrate the season. If they get whooped in the playoffs, whoop-de-doo. A lot of teams get whooped in the playoffs. We had a championship game last year that was 65 to something to 7. That did not ruin TCU's epic season. Of course, they're going to feel bad because they got whooped in the championship game, but I don't know. I think I am very, very happy with how the playoffs. I'm very biased in favor of the 12-team playoffs, how they have it set up. Maybe when it happens, I'll say, this could be better. But right now, I'm 100% for it. Tony, go for Tony. You might as well come into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. You might as well come in here with a dull, rusted spoon and carve out my heart, because if you did that, it would be less painful than the comment that you sent with your very generous super chat. Wisconsin is number 1 in the men's hockey polls. Is this the sign of the apocalypse? I hope it is. I hope it is. And with my luck, the apocalypse will come, and the only thing remaining, the only thing not destroyed, is me in this studio. Thank you, Tony, so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity. John, Boise State is open. Maybe Kellen Moore. Possibly. That's interesting. Brian Harsin, to me, has to be the number 1, right? Has to be number 1. Matt, James Madison would win the Big Ten West. Look, people are getting a little bit too over the tip of their skis on the Big Ten West. The problem with the Big Ten West is we play Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and we get clobbered by them. The Big Ten West versus Maryland, Rutgers, and Indiana, over the last 10 years, Big Ten West is out ahead. Big Ten West in bowl games are way out ahead. Even the Gophers are way out ahead. The Gophers have beaten 2 ACC teams, a Big 12 team, an SEC team. They're undefeated in bowl games with PJ Fleck. The Big Ten West versus other opponents, the record's pretty good. It just so happens they get clobbered by Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and so would the rest of the country, most of the country. Now, does Big Ten West have a problem this year with their offense more than any other years? Yes, they do. But to say that the Big Ten West would be beaten by a Sun Belt school would win, Nope. Joe Z, sipping on my lemon hot tea. Thanks for the super chat, John. Sipping on my lemon hot tea out of my beautiful PATC mug. lost my voice yelling at the game. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Some lemon hot tea. The wife, the little general, has had some hot tea coming out of the Cloak and Dagger mug. Again, go get it. Go get it. Go to the link provided in the description box. You can get mugs, t-shirts. I don't know where my hat is. Trucker hats. A whole bunch of stuff. Go check it out. Okay, let me just make sure I got everything right here. Let's fix this. Love the handle. Let's fix this. Thank you for coming on in. Thank you for your generous donation to the show. Do you think Virginia will be able to ride the coattails of FSU, Clemson, North Carolina into the SEC Big Ten once the ACC gets destroyed? Our football program sucks. I think there's a chance. That's why in yesterday's live show in the Holy Smokes Theater, if you go watch it, let's fix this. Virginia is sitting in the 14th row. North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Miami, Florida right now are sitting in the 15th row. Yes, I think there's a chance. And I don't know if it's, is it coattails? Yes, but it's also the value of the university and the state. You pluck in the Big Ten Network or the SEC Network, that's a whole lot of subscriptions in the state of Virginia going into one of those two conferences. The answer is yes, I believe.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. Can you just hold 1 second?
Sure.
Again, I want to thank you. Let's fix this for your generosity to the channel. Very much appreciate it. JD, go ahead. The floor is yours.
I was running probably a little behind on the show. I went ahead and went back from the beginning and started listening. And so the last person I heard was Steve. But he was asking about the GOR. I think we've already pretty much figured out the strategy, and it's what we've already discussed. That they're hoping they're going to force Notre Dame into making a move.
Yes, sir.
And I know there's some disagreement about the composition clause, but there's some that are very adamant that if you can get down below that number, and they know of at least 3 teams, possibly a 4th, that are ready to make the move, that allows for a renegotiation of the contract. Or that gives ESPN the opportunity legally to renegotiate the contract. Those that have viewed the contract, and like I said, nobody outside of the lawyers or university or conference representatives have actually seen the ACC ESPN contract.
Yeah.
You can't take pictures. You don't get copies. You can go view it and make notes, but you can't have a copy of it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that so many of them that have seen it feel very confident about the GOR as far as the opportunities in the GOR, I don't know. I think they feel pretty good about, it's not going to keep you from leaving. And nothing in the GOR would ever keep you from leaving. It could prevent you from having your broadcasting rights. But anyway, we've been through all that.
Yeah.
And so many believe that the composition clause would be kicked in, which essentially voids the GOR. Because the GOR, all it is the binder to the contract. It's the enforcement mechanism. It's what holds your rights.
Yep.
And if the contract gets renegotiated in any way, you have to have another GOR. And see, that's what happened when Notre Dame signed on. They had to do a revised GOR. And so that's what happens if Notre Dame leaves. The revised GOR isn't valid. There is no GOR. Or there's not a binding version of it, is what I'm saying, that would lock you into the conference.
Mm-hmm.
or lock you into the contract. So you still have exit fees, you still have all that to deal with, but there's all those different avenues. And then the other aspect again, it's negotiations. And if people are wanting to know, is there any other way? Well, those are the three ways. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And some people will still argue other aspects. Well, you could challenge this, you could challenge that, and there's some nuclear options that they could try in court, and they might be successful. But some of the lawyers that have piped in are like, we mean like 20% chance, successful kind of a success rate. So, but that's pretty much it. And then, but I appreciate you keeping on this story, because what you're seeing is the ACC teams now are kind of jockeying for position. One of our insiders piped in this morning just saying he knows FSU has two offers on the table. Two options on the table, and they just need to choose whichever one. And when they said at least two, SEC, Big Ten. I mean, that's just what you're going to presume. So now what you've got, the one reason your Clemson people are saying, yeah, go ahead and put it out there. They're wanting it known in the public space that we're open for business. We're ready to go. And that's what you're going to see. You'll probably hear some rumors from North Carolina, and then once those three are adamant they're going to do that, somebody else is going to pop loose, and I don't know who it is. I mean, do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. I think there's going to be a certain inertia to all this. The first boulders are always the hardest to push. And this is not the same story, so it's not a real good example, but it's the latest example is the Colorado. They had to move first. They were at the center of the stage. We knew it for months, and they finally moved. They moved a month later than I thought they were going to move. But they had some internal issues in their board. But they finally moved, and then it made it more easier for the rest to happen. So the next phase, but the first announcements on making your intentions known, that is a big, massive story, a big, massive boulder to move up the hill. And I don't know who's going to be first, Florida State and Clemson. But Clemson is right on that same plane with Florida State in regards to who, they're incentivized, they're ready, they're working on it. They've had discussions. We know that. I can't get into that. So it's real serious. And the whole story, JD, when you watch a war start, and I'm not going to use any particular war as an example, but when you have your troops lined up and you're ready to go into some place, you only can have those troops ready for so long. Then it's go time, right? And that's what kind of like what this is. People have been talking so much now that if they don't, they're gonna move. They're gonna make some announcement in the next. Something's gonna happen, because I can't really get into it. I guess that's a poor example, but anyways, go ahead, JD.
No, it's a great example because it's everybody's getting prepared for the move, the fight, whatever, however you want to characterize it. Everybody's preparing for the next event, and they are trying to get their place in the line because there's not an unlimited number of tickets. There's only a few.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to get their spot. Again, it used to be I thought FSU and Clemson were tied together. I don't think that now. I think Clemson kind of wanted, and this is just me talking about things that I was hearing about before the season, that Clemson and FSU were kind of going it together. I think they're exit partners, but they may not be necessarily travel partners. And as far as they may not end up in the same destination.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe they will.
Yeah.
I know they'd love to keep that rivalry together. It benefits both schools. But you know, but that's just where we are. I think, you know, North Carolina was the jewel for Big Ten universities. I think for the networks, as far as Big Ten, FSU is the primary focus. Everybody's got their choice. You know, I think as far as the SEC goes, it's again prestige of North Carolina, but at the same time, they're looking at the viewership and the reach that FSU has, and they're like, you know, I think it was Immaculate was talking about that yesterday. Was that, you know, you put and that's the one thing we've been talking about on the message boards for, you know, a couple of years now is, you know, if the Big Ten ever came down and got a foothold, you're right in the middle of everything. And, you know, yeah, Tallahassee's, it's 2 hours from anywhere, but it's 2 hours from everywhere. To everywhere. So in other words,
yeah.
It's not the easiest place to get to. It's expensive to fly into that airport, but at the same time, it's easy to get to everywhere else.
Yeah.
And so and for the Big Ten to get a foothold, and I think that is exactly why the SEC didn't want to be forced into this move. Now, I firmly believe, and I said that yesterday, they wanted to push this off till 2030, 2032. But the universities knew that they just, you know, it's like you alluded to, and it's things that we've been hearing for a while. First, it starts with coaching. You know, you're hearing on the recruiting trail for some of these ACC teams, you know, they're losing their in-state talent because the kids don't want to play in the ACC. They want to play in the SEC or the Big Ten because they know they're going to get more notoriety and they're going to, you know, get more viewers.
Yeah.
They're going to grow their brand.
And soon they're going to get more money.
Yes. And then, it doesn't affect FSU and Clemson yet, but in a few years it will.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we knew this was coming. There's just a lot of people view college, and I'm fixing to wind this up.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that still view college football from the lens of 2 years, 4 years, 6 years ago. What it's going to look like 4 years from 2 years from now, but definitely 4 years from now, it's just going to be a completely different sport. And they're not seeing that the future is here. And so any that are scoffing and that all the realignment and the schools are just quote unquote chasing a dollar, it's just like, man, if you could see what's coming, you'll understand why they're doing what they're doing. This is all about survival, and that's it.
Yeah.
And anyway, great show again. I appreciate it. I just thought I'd kind of chime in and answer that question, and then I'm gonna get back to work.
Got it. Thank you, JD. Mr. Seminole, appreciate it. Great call.
All right, sir. Great job. Thank you.
John Till, thank you for your super chat once again. Appreciate it. Appreciate your incredible generosity to this channel. It's the only way we keep our lights on, through your donations, through everybody's donations. We don't do, we do not do memberships, although we may next year do some special quick peeks, we're gonna call them, membership videos. We'll see. Got a lot of ideas rolling around in my head. People want a little bit more information about certain things, like recruiting. They want to talk about certain things, and that's kind of outside the main show. And so we'll think about that. But anyways, the most part is we survive on donations. I appreciate it. I'll bet Michigan has a copy of the ACC Gore. Yeah. Again, if Michigan, now I might disagree with JD and others here, but if Michigan, let's just pretend, Michigan joins the ACC, they've got to sign the same grant of rights to 2036. We all know Michigan's not going to do that. But thank you so much, John, for your super chat. I appreciate the generosity. Let's see. There was a comment here I wanted to get to. Opie, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. 66 days until January 20th. 83 days until February 6th. Oh, one other thing I want to get to real quick. Breaking news. The University of Washington, on behalf of the 10 departing Pac-12 schools, has filed a motion in Washington Supreme Court to put Tuesday's ruling in favor of Oregon State, Washington State on hold and extend the restraining order to allow the Supreme Court to schedule a complete review expected. Hopefully this happens quickly, right? Hopefully this takes no time. Look, I read somewhere where it takes months to get a... Hopefully this happens quick and we can get a final decision from the Supreme Court. But the University of Washington, on behalf of the 10 departing Pac-12 schools, has filed a motion in the Washington Supreme Court to put Tuesday's ruling on hold and extend the restraining order to allow the Supreme Court to schedule a complete review. So that's breaking news here in the last few minutes. Not unexpected breaking news, right? I think we all kind of knew that was going to happen, and it happened. And this is just more information. According to the filing, Oregon State and Washington State control of the Pac-12 board would allow them to swiftly rewrite the league rules, terminate members, and distribute the conference hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues to the detriment of the student athletes of the departing 10. So that's just a little bit more information as well. Very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Greg, are you a Vikings fan? Yes, I am. Not the same passion as a Gopher fan, obviously. But yes, I am. I'm a Vikings fan. Again, we can go right back to it if you want. I live in Loserville City, and I'm the mayor. Vikings 0-4 in Super Bowls. I am old enough to remember. I don't remember the first Super Bowl 3. I don't remember Vikings' first Super Bowl, Kansas City. I do not remember the Miami Dolphins Super Bowl, Miami versus Dolphins. Bob Greasy, who, by the way, follows me on Twitter, Bob Greasy, quarterback, Miami. Larry Zonka. But I do remember the third and the fourth Super Bowls the Vikings lost. The third Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this was Pittsburgh's first of their 4 when they won 4 in a row in the 70s and then 1980, or maybe it was just the 70s. I don't remember. The Vikings won the NFC Championship game versus the Los Angeles Rams. And the Vikings always defeated the Los Angeles Rams. They beat them like 3 times in NFC Championship games because Los Angeles Rams would come into Metropolitan Stadium and they could not handle the cold. Anyways, when the Vikings defeated the Rams, so the Vikings were going into the 3rd Super Bowl, my mother, and I remember this, I think I've told you this story before, my mother sat me down at the edge of the bed and said, Greg, the Vikings are finally going to win a Super Bowl. Why? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback from the state of Louisiana, she knew that Terry Bradshaw was from Louisiana. My mom is a huge football fan. She's 90 years old, still watches all games, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. That's where I got my passion from. She sat me on the corner and she said, the Vikings are going to win this game because the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback from Louisiana, he's really, really stupid. That's what she said. And the Steelers defeated us 16-6, and we got blown out by the Raiders. Yes, it's pain after pain after pain. So I think we're going to close this live show down. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you liked our content today that we provided, please smash the like button. It helps us so much with the algorithm of YouTube. So before you leave, please smash the like button. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we're coming on live next. We could come on live at any time. Breaking news, we're going to be covering here at Peek Around the Corner. College football's breaking news. Then share the video with the family and friends. I want to thank you for the wonderful phone calls, the wonderful donations, the wonderful comments in the chat room. I appreciate all of them. I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for coming on in this afternoon. We did not promote the show. When we got more Clemson information, we just delivered it, just like when we started with the ACC drama on December 26, 2022. I told you all 2 months from then that Florida State was going to do some public speaking on it, and they did. February 24th. It's going right down the track that we described, and now we got more information. John Till, thank you for your super chat. Watch 80 for Brady with your mom. Funny film. I'll see if I can get her to do that. I see if I can get it. Opie, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I meant to say 66 days until January 20th and 83 days until February 6th for Clemson kicking off the hot bubble of action of the ACC, apparently. Thank you so much for your incredible generosity, Opie, to this channel. Like always, thank you so very much, sir. I appreciate it. I wasn't going to correct you on the days because, quite honestly, Opie, my math is as bad as my speaking. It's as bad as my singing. So I wasn't going to be able to correct you at all anyways. But thank you, Opie, for being meticulous, for being accurate in your reporting in the chat. 66 days until January 20th, 83 until February 6th. Appreciate it, Opie. Appreciate it, John. Appreciate you all for coming in on this live show. Keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.